5 large, clearly large circles, like structures, like concrete or structures, not natural, that are just beneath the water. Now, the water where the Dragon's Triangle is only a couple hundred feet deep. This is really easy to see from space. And sure enough, they're there. So something's going on underneath the serene oceans of our planet, and it's not from around here. Or maybe it is from around here, and these are just either modern civilization or ancient civilizations that want to live apart from those of us on the surface. Now, they may make forays into our society. I got to say, when you were talking about them showing up at Walmart, I was almost wanting to switch over to comedy, because I promise I've seen some at Walmart. I really have. I didn't want to go up and ask them, because it's sort of like, asking a really heavy woman if she's pregnant. It's just not socially acceptable. But you really have to stare, because, you just wonder if they're hiding a tail under there or something. There are some mysteries going on this planet, and I have to express my extreme curiosity here, because if they're there, why, I have to continue to ask myself the question, why the resources spent by our governments? And I hesitate to even use the word governments, because I'll tell you, Richard, I don't even think we have a government. I think we have a loose coalition of bureaucracies that share one big giant checkbook, and they're going to get away with it as long as they possibly can. But I don't think our elected officials even know what's going on. I think they have a small portion of the part of the government that shows up on the news channels, and the rest of it is buried. The rest of it is so far off camera that general public has no idea, and I don't think their elected officials have any idea what's going on. Something big is going on, and it's separate from those of us that are struggling paycheck to paycheck, family vacation to family vacation. They've got a completely different set of long-range goals for their society than we have for ours.
Yes, well, it's a vast planetary control structure that has been set in place. It is enormously funded. Look at these trillions of dollars that are being sucked out of the productive sectors of the economy, and ask yourself where that money is going. We don't know. We, meaning the so-called proverbial, men and women in the street, the average Joes and average Janes. We don't know, but the money is being sucked out of the economy that we live in, and is being funneled to other places, to other purposes, to other uses. Now, I would say that with regard to these structures that this fellow found using this Google Earth, was it you said?
Uh-huh.
Just because you find some large artificial-looking structure underwater doesn't mean that it's necessarily extraterrestrial, because the so-called conventional engineering capabilities that large corporations and major government agencies now have are in themselves very impressive. I would call your attention in that regard to the fact that the Navy, the United States Navy, the Chinese Navy, the Russian Navy, have the capability to make tunnels undersea that can accommodate huge ocean-going ballistic missile-firing submarines. Now, if you know how large these submarines are, they can be 500, 600, 700 feet long. They're mammoth, and they can be well over 100 feet from the top of the conning tower to the bottom of the hull, to the bottom of the keel, and with an impressive beam. So to make tunnels that can accommodate these types of submarines deep underwater or even at a shallow depth, the tunnels would have to be on the order of 150, 200 feet in diameter, so
Sure.
that these submarines can transit them safely. So it's possible. I could only speculate without seeing and having more information about what this gentleman discovered in his search online, but it's possible that he found the entrance to one or more of these undersea tunnels through which submarines can come and go. And they can enter these tunnels at sea and come on shore into underground submarine bases, very large submarine bases that could be miles inland.
Well, we've seen similar structures like that at the end of World War II in the somewhat warm water ports of Norway. The Nazis had built submarine bases back into the mountain with the entrances beneath the surface of the sea. They were just not visible from the sky. And these U-boats could enter these underground hangars or underwater hangars, and they could surface inside the mountain. And there was enough room in there for dozens of U-boats. These were very, very advanced complexes that were literally bomb-proof. And this is ostensibly the area that some of the upper leadership that had escaped during the collapse of Berlin made their way to and holed up in. And some of those U-boats evidently went underwater and ended up in Antarctica and in Brazil.
Yeah, well, the technology that exists today goes far beyond that. That technology is 65 years old now. So what can be done today is an order of magnitude or more greater in scope and sophistication. Now, you mentioned with respect to the Nazi high command at the end of World War II, or at least part of it, and there are many questions and mysteries about those events to this day. However, what is not in question is that the Nazis' number one underground base construction expert named Sauder was captured or surrendered to the United States Army in the closing days of World War II and was in U.S. military custody for at least a couple of years and collaborated with them. They debriefed him, and it's no coincidence that beginning in the immediate post-World War II period, the period between 1945 and 1950, the United States military-industrial espionage complex began an intensive program of deep underground base construction that continues to this present day. So there was serious Nazi input from the Nazis' top expert from the very beginning. Now, during the war, the Nazis made a lot of underground facilities, quite a lot of them, and Sauder was actually head of the Todt organization, TODT, which was founded by Fritz Todt. Fritz Todt was the creator of the German Autobahn system. He was really a brilliant civil engineer, and at the outbreak of war in the late 1930s, he was tasked by Adolf Hitler with creating a civil engineering agency, which is very similar to what we would know in our military system as the Seabees for the Navy or the Army Corps of Engineers for the Army. The Todt organization was like those organizations or agencies, except that it was a civilian agency that worked very closely with the German military during the Third Reich. Fritz Todt was killed in 1942 in a plane crash at the height of World War II. At that point, control of the agency, administrative control, effectively passed largely into Sauder's hands, and by war's end, he was no longer reporting to Albert Speer, but had been commanded by Adolf Hitler to report directly to Hitler. And Hitler had him at work building a series of deep underground, large industrial production facilities. And of course, the war ended, and that brought all of that to an end. But then Dorsch, as I mentioned, was taken into American military custody and it was debriefed extensively by the American military. In fact, I have, and reproduce in my book, Hidden in Plain Sight, which I believe you have a link to on your website book.
Yes.
But I have a couple of memos reproduced in that book from Project Paperclip, specifically asking for Sauder Dorsch and 3 other Nazi underground construction experts to be brought to the United States under Project Paperclip to work with the American military on their underground plant program. And this was circa 1947. So that's what was going on, and that's another aspect of Project Paperclip, which hadn't been previously publicized before my work, and I discussed that in my current book.
Well, the economic structure of the United States is somewhat precarious right now. We know that private investment has it's a fraction of what it used to be. I'm not going to say it has completely evaporated, but I am going to say that venture capitalists, which are groups of predatory investors who take advantage of the poverty and scarcity of creative minds, lend them a little bit of money, just enough to get by, and then through their economic skills, ramp the company up to extremely high value in a very short amount of time, and then sell it. And that's how they make their money. And they don't really care if the technology or the company or any of the people that are working in the original technology even survive. That's the kind of investing that's going on in this country right now. Our government has been completely vacuous when it comes to investing in our small business. It might as well just say small business need not apply. That being said, we're looking at the U.S. gross national product. We're looking at the amount of tax revenue that we're generating. We're looking at the amount of profit that American business is making and how it's being confiscated. And as a people, we're beginning to say, hey, what the heck's going on? Where did all the money go? Why is the United States broke? Why are the best economic minds in the world, and we read some of that news earlier tonight, why are they talking about the economic collapse of the United States? How in the world did we get in this shape? And what it appears to me, I see the same things happening to our country that happened to other countries prior to either a great leadership schism or a great war. We saw it with Germany, as Germany separated from the banking community and post 1929 stock crash, post World War I, post Treaty of Versailles. All of a sudden, Germany emerges as this economic superpower, blitzkrieging its way militarily and economically across Europe.